Okay, Mel. So let's say I've been teaching for a while. I have some sequences that I feel really comfortable with in my back pocket, but now I'm kind of like, where I don't know what to do. Well, here's a good question. Do I need to spice up my sequencing? Do I need to do a new sequence every time? If I do want to change up my sequencing, like where can I find inspiration, or how should I do that in a way that's actually like safe and effective? Should we start with the,
so much. That's so much.
Uh,
uh,
do I need to
goodness.
be creative and create a different sequence every time? We can start with that.
Well, I think we all, it's debatable, right?
Yeah.
And like everybody has their own perspective on that. So I guess, I'm going to give you mine. I remember years back, a friend of mine mentioned, Jess had mentioned, like, oh, well, would you want to be a sitcom, or do you want to be a classic movie? And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. Like, right. Like, if I feel like I'm constantly, what's my theme? What's my sequence? How am I going to flash? And to me, it has a sense of being a little more of a throwaway.
Yeah.
So I have a tendency to go towards classic movie, something that's gonna just have some depth and integrity to it. Now, that's like saying that changing up a sequence is not going to have the depth, and so you could have like tons of classic movies. You could be TNT classic movie series.
Magnificent Seven over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty Woman over here.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So what I would say is go towards, you don't need to do a new sequence all the time, and to develop the nuances of a sequence that has a really good, it's a really good meal for the students. So if you have a sequence, begin to develop it deeper. Are you clear on all the energetics of the sequence? Are you clear of the nuances? Can you deepen the student's understanding of whatever's happening in the postures, whatever journey they're on? So that's one way. I think, yeah. So that's what how about you?
Yeah, I think we get a little bit concerned. I think that there's a fear out there of not being entertaining enough,
Sure.
And I think that it's really good to look at that and then to squash that fear like a bug, and because we get and there are some classes that are that are very different and wild and have interesting sequencing. And I think that there's a usefulness to that, in the sense that students get out of their head because they don't know what's coming. But I also think I practiced the same sequence for years because I did Ashtanga for a while, and there was something so powerful about returning to the same ground again and again and again. It was like creating this deep groove. So I think we have to question what is of service to our students, and not what is the candy service. Like, we could give them sugar and entertain them and just play really cool music and whatever, and like have a dance party. And there's a place for that. Or we could give them like kale and broccoli and a good like turkey sausage, and and there's a reason that some sequences really work. Like, I found myself recently, I found myself teaching a very, very similar sequence a lot, because I love it, and because it works, and because it gets students where I want them to go. And I'm kind of like, this is the classics. This is like really just solid, good shit. So why would I try to put glitter on it? It doesn't need glitter. It's good as it is. So now that said, I think that there is a usefulness to changing up your sequences every once in a while. If you want to give your students, for example, like in Ashtanga, we never did Ardha Chandrasana ever. It was very sad. I never got to do half moon. And so like one of the first poses I did when I'd like branch out and be a rebel and like go to I'm not going to do the primary series, I was like, I'm going to do half moon.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah. And there's I think there's value in changing up your sequence if it has a clear intention.
Yeah.
And exactly. Not just because I'm scared, right?
Yeah.
We get scared.
Yeah, exactly. And that aspect is when we do get scared and we are, we're basically in a deluded state, right? Like
Yes.
we are literally off our yoga because we are identifying with popularity or with, whatever. And I feel like it's that doing our own practice of what is truly of value. So reminding ourselves what the value is of the yoga, reminding ourselves what we really care about. What's that truth for us of why we're teaching, and to fortify that with whatever we're offering in class. So really looking inside to what is inspiring us and helping us to then offer, versus looking outside, our identity going outside, having that be the value. So I think that's what you just said. You said that all. And so that aspect too of like, well, and, Minx in Atsuku, who I love and is my co-trainer here, I just hear her words so often, which is teach them what to value. Years ago, she had shared that. And I was like, well, yeah, that's my job. My job, same with my children or whatever, is I'm here to teach you what to value, because the world, for the most part, is not teaching you that.
That's awesome.
So it's, I feel like our sequencing and whatever we're walking in the room, it's like remembering that we are either affirming this deeper value system or for the first time teaching it to them.
That is powerful. And who knew that we would get to this particular spot in a sequencing conversation? But I think it's really useful as a yoga teacher to make a mission statement, to write out, what are my values? What do I get from the practice? What is my intention to share? And why? From the highest perspective, because it lets people learn how to be more receptive. It teaches people how to listen. It teaches people how to respond rather than react. It gives people a space to feel wholly and to become integrated humans. To really map out, wow, I'm not here teaching, and God bless exercise teachers, but I'm not here teaching an exercise class. I'm here because there is a higher spiritual value. There's a higher calling to this particular practice invites and encourages us. And so I think when we're attached to that, that's what gets transmitted. Students don't give, it's a little bit like another conversation that you and I had about chanting. It's like when we commit to our sequence unapologetically, the students will commit to it. Right. But if we're like, oh, I have to entertain them, and it's coming from that place of fear, then students it's like, that's what they're valuing. Right. They read that. It's funny how we really transmit those meanings when we teach. And I think we do. One of my favorite teachers in Vancouver, Yasmina Egler, a coach, teacher, trainer of mine. She teaches a very similar class every single time. And I loved her class and went to it. And it was a classical piece. It was like, we're doing Warrior 2 and I'm holding your ass there for a minute. And we're doing a sun salutation, and there was nothing fancy to it. It was so simple. It was like eating your vegetables, and it was so nourishing for that reason.
And I bet you could ask her at any point, Yasmina, what does this mean for you? What is the intention? What are the levels of what this sequence is doing? That Warrior 2 means what for you in this time? What are you hoping the students are able to, right?
Yeah.
That link to something deeper and greater, not just literal, more figurative. What is even symbolically, what are these poses symbolically holding for our practice?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It wasn't about the pose. It was about something bigger than that.
All the layers.
Always. All the layers.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Good.
It's so fascinating. Such a potent practice.
Bong.